Hello, hello, good afternoon. Hello, Xanax. Uh, hello, Renato. And hello, Tea Kettle Drone. How are you all doing today? Hope your days have been pretty good so far. We are continuing to work on this problem here. So we've got one checkbox per of these, and I think we're getting really close. Doing good so far? Okay, excellent. That sounds good. All right, so let's see. If I wanted to, if I remember correctly, we need the IDs. So we need to figure out, we need the IDs in here. And I think that's because we have titles of the columns, we have the values, but we don't have anything to know what the IDs are, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? So we need to add you in to this BB data table data, which is used in the prototype pages tables. Okay. Yeah, so here's BB table and then table data. Okay, so we need IDs here. Good. I'm your favorite co-working stream. Well, thank you. It's ironic because like that in a way that's kind of how I treat it too, because like this is when I get stuff done. So I'm glad it's good for you too. Okay, so if I want IDs, so we have values and I push Yew Rust and Axum in. And those are the right. So in this case, this is simply, okay, so coming from the database, we have to figure out what this is going to be like. If I had an ID and I'm creating like the titles and then the values, because okay, so we're basically doing it almost like ECS style, right? Where it's per column that I'm throwing in there. So in that case, yeah. So if I just create a bunch of IDs here, so like we'll do like 1, 2, 3. Because I think we only have 3 rows, right? We have 3 rows. Oh, but you need to be attribute values. Scott, hello. How are you doing today? Things are going pretty well for me. We've I think we figured out what this is going to be like. Oh, you don't know how to do this with an integer. You can only do this from a string? I guess so. I mean, pretty much anything that's going into the DOM is going to be a stream coming out anyways, so not that surprising. Okay, so we have you. Then we'll have the... Did I just call this rows? What did I call it rows? These are IDs. Okay, so we give you that. Well, you just got back from the doctor. He did your nerve ablation. You're still under the influence of Valium right now. Valium is a strong one. I do remember I've had Valium once, and that's when I had my wisdom teeth out. And that's one of those like, oh, yeah, nothing hurts. Everything's fine. My eyes are dilated at different amounts. You took 2. It is an interesting experience, but like not one that when I was done with it, didn't really have any of the like desire to stay on it. But I know it's one of those painkillers that can be addictive. Okay. Of course, I didn't take it for that long, too. I was on Valium for several days. And I don't remember what the amount was. I think it was a smaller amount. Although they probably gave me like a pretty strong dose for the first day. And then they gave me some like pills to take just like, every day for a week or something like that while everything healed. And I couldn't eat normal food. Okay. So we pass in, okay, so in the data, we go there. So we have the IDs coming in, which means in here, do we have the IDs here? I don't. But instead, we can get the IDs, can't we? Because it comes in as data. So data.IDs. Ooh, but you're doing this prop value, search value state based upon I'm probably gonna have to rethink the data structure for this, just to make sure that it's everything stays together. I think we need to rethink the data structure for this, because this doesn't make sense. I think what I need to do is, instead of just having everything be separated out here, is create like a single row that has, oh, and I guess that's the problem, right? Because we don't know what it is. So I wonder if it has to be, does it need to be a generic that implements a trait? And a trait that would have like some getters, like get ID, something like that. Startup Builder, you got a COVID-19 last week. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. But you're doing better now? Okay. Or you're at least doing okay right now. Well, hopefully everything continues to be okay for now. As it gets older, it loses its lethality, but it gets more contagious. I don't know if it's getting more contagious or we're just sliding on our attempts to prevent us from getting infected. I don't know. One of those two. But yeah, I believe it has lost a lot of its lethality, mostly because we've learned how to fight it. So what if I created a new data? Or it would be a trait, wouldn't it? It'd be so like a trait for EB data table data. So a data table data. And there's no way in a trait in Rust for me to say what field something has, right? Because it's not necessarily always going to be attached. Or Rust doesn't know that it's only going to be attached to a struct. It doesn't care what the data structure is. It just wants to know like methods. So we're going to want something like an ID. So an ID with like a self, and it returns an attribute value. And I don't think I'm allowed to do something like, this would be function. I don't think I'm allowed to do something like self.id. Because it's going to say, yeah. Okay, so what if I get rid of you? It's going to break all sorts of stuff. You have yet to catch COVID, and everyone in your household has had it at one point in time. And you're the only one in your family. Oh, you took all four. So I have not. I try to take once per year. One booster per year. I don't know. I feel like it loses a lot of the strength if I go for the like multiple times per year. Of course, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know if that's true, but I was reading about it a lot. Which reminds me, I need to go and schedule that. So one of these days I'll probably do something where it's like, I'm not streaming because I'm, feeling it. Okay. So let's continue on. So if I have something where I get the ID and I have a function to get the title, do I want it to where do I want something where I get the IDs out? And then it would be like a vector of attribute value? How am I doing that? I'm doing that. So if I get the IDs out like that, that works, right? And then I can get the titles, and then I can get the values for this. Okay, I think this would work, right? So if I do self, this would be a vec attribute value. So in this case, I am not going to worry about the any of this. Okay. So if we do that, but we can further lock this down, the title is going to be one of these, right? So you're just a BB table column title. So I don't really need that anymore. So we know what the ID is. We know what the titles are. Values are going to be a little bit more interesting. So value is going to be that hash map. Of attribute value. Then I get rid of all that, and we just have this trait here. And now we say, that we're going to take in the data, which is, I get the, it can't be impl, we can't put impl in there. If I put dyn, we're gonna have to box this up, aren't we? Yes, we're gonna have to box you up. Ooh, so we need to make sure that you implement partial equal. So we can do that. We can say you implement partial equal. Cannot be made into an object. So we see that a bunch. Do I also need like the static on it? Oh, for a trait to be object safe, it needs to allow building a vtable to allow the call to be resolvable dynamically. What am I missing? Oh, come on. Let me see that. I guess, wait, do you have... Objects have traits can be the base trait of a trait object. An object is object safe if it has the following qualities. So all super traits must also be object safe. Sized must not be a super trait. It must not require self-sized, okay? All associated functions must either be dispatchable from a trait object or be explicitly non-dispatchable. Okay, I think we're okay. Does not have aware self-size, which it already told us that we can't do that. Examples of safe, object-safe methods is attribute value not object safe? Okay. Let's see. Do we need to... Okay, so we need to implement partially equal. We're not attempting to overwrite anything. So that's fine. We also have this problem. Oh, collect you into. Yeah, because you're different now. Okay, so hold on. It might be getting confused over how it's being used too. So search value state. So my search values I almost want to then clone it. The search thing makes it tougher, right? So I want like a sub of these things. So either I need a vector of like arrays and everything else, and I need to make sure when I sort through them, it's all the same. So it does feel to me like I want a single object representing the thing, whatever that is. So that's probably where this comes in. So I want let's try this again. So if I want pub ID, because I can't do this with well, actually, wait, can I? For each specific thing, I might be able to get away with that then. Hold on. So if I have, we have a title, and the title is just going to be an attribute value. And then I probably would just want values for that title going all the way down then, right? So if I do that, then the order is preserved and I know exactly what this is. So this would be for the data we have for one title. So this is not data. This would be a column. Okay, so we have a column, which it represents like all the way down for one thing. And so I can have as many of these as I want for all of the columns, which means, okay, how can I represent a row then? Because that's what I really care about. So a row, I would have an ID. We'll have that be an attribute value. And then we'll have, I could have this be a vector of titles. No, this wouldn't be a vector of titles. This would just be a vector of the data, right? if I did something like this, so we have a row, and then I can have a vector of this row, right? I can have a vector of BB table data rows. And then I can have all the titles that I care about. Titles are just, they're not anything special. So if I just have the rows as my data, so I have my rows. It's going to be BB data table row. Oh, but it's going to be a vector of it. Niank, hello. How are you doing today? And King, hello. How are you doing today? I'm doing pretty good. Trying to figure out how to do this without driving myself too insane. So then you need to implement partial equal, and then that makes you happy. The same? Awesome. Okay, everything in here broke, but that's fine. So when we're searching through these, I'm searching through everything. So this makes it a little bit less fun to do because it's not just a single hash map anymore. I want to now, so I want to loop through the rows. And inside the rows is a vector of all the data. So it's going to be like a loop of loops, which is the slowest way of searching stuff. But I do want to filter out, essentially. So search value state, we're going to filter out rows. So essentially here, oh wait, no. On search, props data values. Okay, so this changes. So we start by saying that I want all of the rows. So we get all the rows. Search row state. I can't, oh, I have to tell you that you're clonable. Okay, so we can clone that, and that gives us props data values. So that's not exactly the same. So props data rows. So props rows. So I get the prop rows, I move that into use state, and we initialize with props rows. So that's what we start with. So we start with just a BB data table rows. Then we come down to here. So when we search for something, we have the search value state. So we're going to change this. Search rows state. So, okay, we clone that in. We clone in the original rows. So we clone that in, and then we can, okay, so we move you in here. Okay, so we get the search text. Search values, okay, so props. So we have our props values. So this is not really the same. So we have props rows. So searched rows. Katali, hello. How are you doing today? So we have, okay, so we have search rows. We clone that. So we can turn it into an iterator. We filter that down. So we have a prop row. So really, yeah, so we have a single prop row. For value, okay, so then we have our inner, what is that? It's values. Okay, so it actually is values. So in prop row, we do have values, but it's not a function. And that gives us an attribute value. If the value as stir to lowercase contains search text as stir, then return true. Otherwise, continue on. And if we reach the end of the loop, and we return false if we haven't found anything at all. We collect you into, this is going to be a vec of the BB data table row, because that's what we start with and that's what we end with. Okay. And then we set you to be the searched rows. Okay, and then we do the same thing with checkboxes. You're gonna go lurk a little bit. Hope everything is going well. Yeah, things are going pretty well. Awesome. Thank you for asking, and hope that you're having a great day. Thanks for hanging out and lurking. Search values checkboxes. Okay. So when creating the checkboxes, I want to iterate through each row, but I want to do through the search, right? So search row state, we iterate through that, we get a row. I get the row here. Input type checkbox. So now I should be able to do like ID equals row dot ID. And this was the entire thing that we were having trouble with before. Stacking, hello, how are you doing today? Twitch just gave you an ad to go work as a programmer for the NSA. I mean, that's close to the organization that I worked for. It's off by one error. They've got to be very similar, right? I guess I shouldn't say for. I worked at. That's probably more correct. Oh, I need to implement debug. One is a little more evil than the other. I mean, it's got less stuff in it, right? So it has to be less evil. I mean, it's just math, right? How can math be wrong? Patatas, hello. How are you doing? Let's see. Okay. Got that. I'm kind of tired today, but well enough. Okay, that's good. I mean, well enough is a good thing. Being tired, that does feel like a normal state for a lot of us these days. Okay, titles. Now the titles, we actually have the titles, right? So we know what exactly those are. We just clone the titles out and we're good to go. The values is going to be the searched rows state deref and then clone. And that's going to change. Okay, so BB table is going to be a little bit upset because that's not exactly the same thing. You know, the government is desperate. Almost every state they operate in has legalized cannabis. I still don't understand why it hasn't just been legalized. Now, I guess I'm a little bit biased. I live in a state, like the first state that legalized cannabis. And also had a job. Like I worked at a cannabis company or a cannabis adjacent company for a while. And so I learned a lot about like everything that cannabis is, all the problems that like people think about cannabis is actually usually around something else near cannabis. And legalizing it has like I don't think that it's been like a handful of problems, but way less than when they're illegal. I wonder if that gets you disqualified for a government job. From my understanding, yes. And still for some international and some national companies, it absolutely does. And that's because it's still considered a worse drug in America than cocaine. Think about that. Cannabis is scheduled as a worse drug than cocaine. Okay, so search rows. Okay, so that's fine there. All right, so we got this. So now let's head off into back to BB table. And we're gonna say, okay, so we have these values here. So you're now gonna be a vec. Oh, so you want a hash map attribute value because that's just how this table is. Should I make a new... Demolroy, hello. Former NSA engineer here. You just have to be clean off of drugs for at least a year when you go for your poly and also not lie about it on your SF86. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I would guessing that like lying about anything, no matter how big, is going to be a big no-no on any of those forms. Whenever I had to fill out anything, I never had to go more than... I was a moderate. I had to fill out the moderate risk, like forms. So I never got like even close to secret access, like not even close. But I never worked for any place that even was allowed to have secret anything near. Oh, I guess I worked in a building that at one point of time was top secret. And then that got not decommissioned, it got it got changed. Like they like removed everything, they ripped it all out, but because the building was built on rollers, and in California rollers is a really nice feature to have, so they put the supercomputer in there, and that's where I worked. Blackmail is the main thing they're trying to protect against. I do remember them looking a lot into like, do you have a gambling habit? How often do you go gambling? How often do you do that? Because I think that was are you at risk for like like getting into debt and then somebody like holding that over you, which I did not have that problem. You think the worst thing is working for a bank? Your wife works in the financial sector, and we have to turn over all of our bank accounts and debt yearly. Oh, that's fun. Am I using tables anywhere in... Yeah, I'm curious. How much this will break? So why is that small? Okay, so I want to search for BB table. Oh, my tags. Okay. So if I were to make this change here, the tags would break, but I probably want to build this out to... Okay, so I think I'm gonna rebuild like the tables component, because I think that's gonna be a little bit easier. So we might like do this as a I can call this a BB table, but it's going to be in a different directory. Okay. That might work out, and we'll just make it easier for us to deal with. And then I'll deprecate this one. So I can say deprecated. I don't actually remember. I don't think this shows up in Yew. I don't think when I try to use this component. Oh, no, I do see that deprecated. Perfect. If we go over, I think, $100,000 in debt, she gets fired because that puts her at a high risk of theft. Oh, interesting. I would assume that buying a house isn't considered the same thing, right? Because there's very few places in the United States that you can buy a house for less than $100,000. They exist, but most of them like are at least 100K. Although if you work for a bank, then maybe they just want you to use them as a loan and sort of like, you know, take money from their own employees. Hopefully give you a nice deal on the mortgage. Let's see. Demore, you don't miss working in a skiff? Oh, I remember. I think I walked through one of those once, like the decommissioned one. So it was empty, but it had the cameras set up, which I don't think were plugged in anything more. It was all built in the 60s. It was really interesting. Air-gapped rooms with no windows. Yes, that was it. My they moved my office. We moved our office down there, No, not our office, our lab. They moved our lab when I was a sysadmin down into the skiff because they wanted our previous lab had nice windows and a nice view, and they wanted to turn into more office space for, other people. And sysadmins, we don't need air or light, so they put us down there. And it's very funny. You go like, okay, I have cell phone signal. Oh, nope, nothing anymore. And then it's like, okay, well, how many? The entire building, the entire room was like what, multiple foot thick steel. It was a big deal, and it was air gapped. I remember that. And then what was the other thing? It was oh yeah, every once in a while they had sensors. They had motion sensors everywhere around it, and there was rats in the building every once in a while who'd come and trip the sensors. And apparently nowadays they didn't care anymore, but back in the day I heard stories. I wasn't there at the time, but I heard stories that like the whoever is working there would be sitting there, at the camera room, and there's suddenly a military version of the SWAT team would show up and fully decked out in the middle of the night, and no, like, all business, and go like, let us in, we're checking stuff, sensor got tripped. And it's like, okay. And they'd have to go through, they'd send somebody like in the walkway between them to like crawl through and look at it. Of course they found like, the rats. And then they have to also go back out and do everything, and like write the reports up of like, yep, it was nothing again. So that was fun. And then they moved our lab out of there again when they put that room, because that room had it was a air gapped room, but also the air gapped room was on rollers too. So it was like a roller room on rollers in a building on rollers. So it was like super protected against earthquake. And basically like if there had to be like a really bad earthquake for you to feel any movement in there or whatever. And so when our building got one of the first hybrid quantum computers, they put one in there, which was really interesting. I actually got to see the CPU for a hybrid quantum computer. It was one of those first ones that Google had invested in, put them in there. So they technically we didn't own them. Also, I wasn't allowed to ever touch it. I just could look at it. I took a photo of it, and they told me under no circumstance could I ever share it on social media. I could only show it to people in person. And I'm like, well, this is useless to me. I showed it to like a couple people, and like they look and go like, oh, that's interesting. Like the CPU was essentially just like a bunch of bronze? No, what's a normal wiring? Just like normal copper wiring around electromagnet, and with air gapped, with like a little bit of air gapped, and that was the quantum effect for like jumping in. So basically electricity could be going one direction or the other direction, or it can like reverse or something like that, and that's how you can get like the 3 different states. So instead of binary, it was 0, 1, or both 0 and 1 at the same time. And that's what they were playing with, is doing it. It took 30 days to calibrate it, because the quantum computer needed to run at a temperature you measured in Kelvin. And it took 30 days to calibrate it after it reached its appropriate temperature, and any amount of vibrations could cause it to heat up. And just like a tiny bit of Kelvin increase in temperature would decalibrate it and like make it worthless. I'm pretty sure that the ones nowadays are like much better, but like the early days for quantum computing, and that was fascinating to look at. That's also when I met some people. They brought in somebody who was like a quantum computer specialist. She was a physicist who had studied quantum computers for they can't run at true sub-zero because that's not possible, but they can run like really close to it. It had liquid helium and liquid oxygen. Both were required to operate it. That was one of those scary things when we were watching them roll the like many like, the big, like, the helium sort of like tubes where it's like, for the balloons, and you're like, oh, that has helium gas in it, whatever, it's compressed helium gas. Well, they were moving many of those with like the big warnings on it, going like, this is liquid nitrogen, this is liquid oxygen, this is liquid helium. It's like, this is then we looked it up and we're like, okay, cool. So if any of those tanks ruptured, we'll be the first to die because we'll just suddenly not be able to breathe anymore, because that's one of those gases where you can't detect it and it fills up the space, and then you can't breathe anymore because it displaces the oxygen. So that was not cool to be hanging around near. But it was really interesting to know, like, okay, they're actually doing like active cooling all the time on site in this like in an automated way. It was really fun to see. Data centers have oxygen stations for this reason. We did not. This was early days. They didn't give us an oxygen station for that. And as far as I know, well, so this was near the end of my tenure there. So like I was there for less than a year after they introduced the quantum computer. I don't know if they added that in. That would make sense if they did. It would have been nice if they did, but I can't promise that. But they had lots of cool tech. That building had lots of cool things. And it was fun to like be able to talk to like PhDs who like knew their stuff about this, and listen to them talking about like things that they didn't know, and we're super excited to find out and learn about it, because a lot of it was like theoretical with quantum stuff, and a lot of it was like, oh yeah, I've been studying this for all my life, and now we get to actually test it, which is fun. Putting fires out is hard, but sucking oxygen out of the room is easy. That's true. That is very true. I do remember. Did they have? I don't remember seeing any. I was a member of a tour of the supercomputer room once, and I think they did use. Were those the halon? I don't remember if they had the halon. I think it might have been liquid. I think it was liquid. Because the building was old, and I don't think they had the halon, whatever it's called. Like, I think it was halon gas, right? That they would use to displace the oxygen and push the oxygen out, and that's what they would put the fire out without destroying the equipment. I think for our building, it was old enough that it was liquid based, which means that it would destroy all the equipment. Like, everything would be gone. If two or more of the mercury little caps melted. Fun times. I haven't thought about that story in a long time, or any of that stuff in a long time. All right, so either change this to match what I'm creating what I'm using here, which might make sense because I probably want to change that. I do want to change the other thing. I want to change everything to use data tables instead of just tables. I basically want to make tables not be a normal used thing, if that makes sense. So making it nicer for now, for me, is probably the better choice to go with. Let's see. So if I keep you, let's just imagine I change the values. We make this the actual thing. So it's just gonna be a vec of you would probably need to be out of here and in here. So instead of BB data table row, this is a BB table row. Okay, so we're going to get rid of you because it's going to be very similar. Which means we also need the titles, right? We already know what the titles are going to be. Tables and forms are always 10 times harder to nail and get right than they should be. I know. It's so funny because forms are just forms. They're just simple inputs. They're just simple stuff, and using them in a normal way is great. But as soon as you start trying to use them in a reusable way, it becomes insanely hard. And it's like there's no good reason for that. And it's one of those things where, like, if after enough time has come out that I've forgotten the pain of it, I'm like, oh, why is it taking you so long? That's like, you're being silly. That's the problem. You're just being silly. Okay, so I have values. We have a vec of, so we'll change this to rows. Yes, I know. Okay, so okay, we go over the titles and we create those. Great, easy. If props row slots. Right, okay, so if we have a row slot, we're doing that. Great. So we iterate over the rows, and I no longer need to zip things in, right? Because we have this stuff. So we map a row information in. Let's see. Elf64, hello. You took a cold shower today and you got lower back pain. And you're in your early 20s. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry about that. I mean, hopefully it's just like a temporary little, spasm or injury or something like that. Okay, so this was, I want to get the value. So I already have the value out of here. So it's the row. Oh, wait, no, I don't even need to get the titles, do I? We're just going straight across with whatever we're working on. So we just want to put in the HTML and value. So get rid of you, get rid of you. Which means we don't need you, we don't need you. We just do that. We have a, so tr, td of the value. Oh, no, I still need to root through these, don't I? So hold on, let's try this again. We still need to take the row dot values. So then here's like the individual value. And I want to turn it HTML. Table data. And we're going to throw in the value here. Expected a valid HTML element. Aren't you essentially? What are you? Okay, you're a BB table row. I want to take each row. Oh, you don't know what that is. Okay. Oh. I know what the problem is. That's my problem. Pravan, hello. It's going pretty well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing today? Okay. So you're happy. We still have plenty of errors, but this might now no longer in here. But plenty in other things. So in our data table component, right, these things don't exist anymore. Or rather, this is now a BB table row. Oh, just one selected. No field values on this. In components data table, so in, oh, because it's rows now. Prevent, you're looking over your resume. Always good to keep it up to date. That's very true, especially in the current era that we find ourselves in. Did find quite an interesting job at Docker. Interesting. You almost worked at Docker back in 2018 as a React dev. Oh, that would have been fun because Docker was like so big and rising like a like they got really big starting around then, right? Seemed like a good place to work. I knew one person who consulted slash helped slash did something around with them, but I don't think they were a full-time employee of Docker. So I have no idea what Docker's, like, what their culture actually was like. But it probably would have been interesting. Okay, so everything's happy here, and then we still have some things here. Okay, so then you... Okay, so data table data is not correct anymore. So you're going to be gone. So this is now going to be our... So really all of this is going to be changed now, isn't it? We have our titles. So tag name and courses. We have our values, but the values are no longer the same thing. So now we're going to have let rows. This is still going to be a vec. But we're going to have a data table row. You can't find that? There it is. Okay. BB table row. So we're going to have our ID. So we'll start with like 1, and we'll have our values. And then this would be like another vec of, okay, so for across both them, right? So we have tag name and then number of courses. So for tag name, we'd have attribute. Oh, you know what? I bet I could probably do the into trick here. So tag name would have like Rust. And then number of courses, let's do like 10. Oh, and then let's do that. It's an interesting order for it to put itself into. Okay, so if I do, oh, can I do an into on this? Oh, no, I can't. Okay. So then we're gonna put another comma here. No, you don't want to put another comma here. Okay, so then we're gonna do 2. So we have, what are these tag names? So like Rust, we'll do Axum, like the number of tags being used. Oh, number of courses. So we'll just say, I don't know, we have 1 course of that. You still don't, we want to change on this? Okay, so you're still happy with this. Cool. Okay, then 3. Let's do, no. SQL X is a thing. We have 2 courses, so we'll say. Okay, so we have you, and now, okay, so what are we, I called this rows, right? Oh, oh, uh-oh. That's why it's not been reformatting for me, because something is horribly wrong here. Oh no, I'm not closing things. Okay, hold on, let's go back to the first one. Okay, so we're getting good errors out of here. So this is the values. Oh, this is where I need this comma right there. Okay. There we go. That's what I needed to do. Okay, so then you become 2. We'll change you to Axum. Okay, I want something like that. Now you're happy. Okay, so cannot find. So this will now be rows. In data table, you're looking for rows and rows, like that. So actually, you can just be titles. Ooh, we're missing titles. Oh, and then you've been cloned. So titles. Can I turn? Oh, because attribute values don't implement clone. That's too bad. Okay, can I do this? There. Okay, that should work. Except I need to. I forgot to actually clone these, right? So there, so that should make you happy. Okay, no problems there. Okay, cannot move out of view. So for value in proprows.values.iter. So we'll just get a reference to you. Cannot move out of row.id. I don't want to move out of the row.id, but it's a attribute value, so it's free to clone. It compiled. Okay, so our table looks the same, and this looks the same. And wait, that search just still work? Perfect. Okay, all of that is still working, and now, but we don't get. That's interesting. Okay, so we're getting closer. Okay, so in data table, Did I get rid of it? Is that why? I got rid of the checkboxes, didn't I? I have to redo that. Row slots. Search values checkboxes. Oh no, I didn't. Here it is. Oh wait. I got rid of that in the tables. Nope, not tables. Table. I got rid of it here. So table row, we create this. Okay, so now I want to put the vec of these row slots. Okay, so are you doing the right thing here? So search row state. So we get a table row, we map through that. So we print out the row. So now we have the ID, the values. I guess we have the ID and the values. Okay. And so I just want to create an input type checkbox with the ID, and that's it. I don't care about anything else right now. Okay. So then for each row, we're going to do this again. This is where I now have a slot. I want to loop through each slot. This is for each row, right? I just want to put the one that I care about here, don't I? But the index of it should be right because I'm using it based upon the searched. So this is where we zip. Okay, so we still have the row there, and then here we're going to get a slot. So we're going to do we just want to can I just do that? That doesn't implement. Oh, slot. Nope, stop. Be cloning. Okay, so we have this again. And this time, input ID equals 1, ID of 2, ID of 3. Okay. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Now I want to use the proper. I want to use the let's see, so titles. So we're missing, for this one here, we're missing a title for you, so I need to add that in. Now I'm doing the slot here in the data table, but that doesn't make, oh, it's just a checkbox, right? For Loop and Bash, hello. How are you doing today? So sorry to bother me with this. Don't worry about it. You're not bothering me. What editor am I using? You try to figure out looking at the repos. I am using Helix editor. So there's a link to the webpage if you want to take a look at it, and then I have some of the config files that I have set up for what I'm working with right now in that repo there. Yeah, it does look pretty good. There's some it just had a major update which made it a lot better. I haven't gone through and sort of like figured out how to utilize and make use of the new update. I know there's some things in it that would basically can make things a lot better, at least for me. But I haven't actually gone through and like tested it out and played with it yet. But it's interesting. There's some good stuff in here. I've turned on a lot of things. Like I turn on like all the white space stuff. For some reason, it just works with my brain and helps me like see the gaps a little bit better. But I think that's just like how my brain works. I think with a lot of people, you like more clean interfaces. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. You like it the way it is. Yeah, so like by default, you don't see all these things. You have to add those in, but they're fairly simple to add in too. Okay. Here's a slot. I probably, because like this is a little bit too, this is too detailed for this component. I need to pass in the slot from the parent. I need to pass in the slot from the parent. So we need to take in like a slot here. So like this would be a row slot, which is going to be a vec of vnode. And so for row slots, did I call it row slots? Row slot. What editor did I use before Helix? Let's see. So right before Helix, we used NeoVim for a bit of time. And then before that, we used VS Code for a very long time. Some of you may remember before I did Rust, I was on just Vim for a period of time doing web dev stuff, and we did game dev in Lua. And this is a very long time ago. That was all in Vim. So I've basically gone back and forth between Vim and VS Code for a long time. And then with Rust, it was VS Code. And then earlier this year, late last year, we did NeoVim with Rust. And then finally, we've settled on Helix for a little bit of time, at least. Do I prefer Helix over NeoVim? For right now, yes. I like the simplicity of configuration. Like that in some ways, knowing that I can't configure it anymore is nicer because I can't like fall into the trap of like constantly tweaking my configuration. So in that way, it is definitely nicer. I mean, it looks nice. It runs decently well. Every once in a while, there's like problems with it. But like The new update should have fixed most of those. I just need to update my configuration to work with every single situation. Do I need to worry about an employer telling me I can't use NeoVim? I mean, yes. So, while I would like to say that there's no reason why a like manager or a team wouldn't say, "Hey, you can use whatever editor you want." I have absolutely seen lots of companies dictate technology that they're going to use. And I've seen lots of teams that like the team agrees, okay, this is the editor that we're going to use. And then they create like a single config file and other things and sort of like use that all together. Now, as a as sort of like an aside working within that, I did that once with for my team, the last team that I worked on that I was leading. We basically said like we're using VS Code. That's it. Like as a team, we're using VS Code, and the main reason for that is because live share. So we could pair together with live share and see each other's cursor and follow each other. It was an amazing feature, and we really loved that. And so we used that all the time. Now I had no problem with anybody not using VS Code when we're not pairing. I don't see that there was an issue with that at all. I didn't ask anybody, and I didn't like dictate that. It's just more of like, hey, jump on live share, let's go. And there's like, okay, I'll boot up VS Code, like, you know. So as long as you had that up, I didn't really care about the rest of it. But some companies might care a lot, especially if they pay. So some companies like might pay like, let's say JetBrains for like WebStorm or PHP Storm or, you know, something like that. And in that case, they might say, hey, we paid for every developer, you have to use the thing that we paid for to make use of it. So they might do something like that too. Oh, yeah, can't find row slots because now your props.row slots. And so now in prototypes, now we have to create the row slots here. But what I probably want to do is say that row slots here are not absolutely essential. And a proper default for a vec is always an empty vec. Okay, so everything's working. Nothing's working here. Ooh. Yeah, we broke everything. We can't search. Nothing's working anymore. Cool. Well, that's fun. So we don't want this. Oh, I wonder if we do want something like this. This is gonna be interesting. Because basically I'm gonna want to iterate through the row slots and put them in there. But okay, why are you showing? Okay, so for prototype pages, I don't have row slots being put into data table or table like that. In table, if we have row slots, that's proper default. So if your row slot's greater than 0, show that. Okay, so this table's showing nothing anymore. Why is that? We had it showing something. You just got a nice letter in the mail from your insurance company. It was written like it was from a 1900 mob henchman. That's insurance companies sometimes feel like they think that people like them. Or they're like, hey, don't you want to like me? It's like, no. No. Okay, row slots. Your default. Props or row slots. So I'm passing you into table here. Oh, I can't cast this. Oh. Can I do that? Yes. Okay, let's see what... Hey, you're an empty array. Okay, you're your empty vector. I mean, that makes sense. Okay, okay, okay. So... it could be one of these warnings. Like, we could have a warning somewhere that's causing the error. That could be it. What can I put in your experience for resume if you've never had a job? So what have you well, okay, there's quite a few different things. So remember that the point of a resume is to get an interview, right? So you need some way, like the resume needs to some way show what that you can provide value for what you can do, right? So if you can't put jobs on there, you can put other things that are stand-ins for a job. So if you've ever led a club, or if you've been in a club that's like has some kind of experience that you did in it that's relevant, you can put that on there. I know for a fact that one of my mentors, he doesn't have it anymore, but like back when he first started, he put on that he was a World of Warcraft guild leader for years on his resume. So, you know, that's what he did like early on, and put that on there to like help show that he has experience leading people and doing stuff. And he said that actually helped him get leadership jobs until eventually he had enough leadership jobs that he didn't need the World of Warcraft approach anymore. Create projects. If you have any activities that you've done, things like that, anything that allows somebody to look at it and goes like, ooh, okay, I get an idea of what you can do. That goes in your resume. And then as you get jobs, you can start removing some of them, replacing them with the jobs. It said, we pay a lot of money to keep you healthy, and we noticed you missed a few medications. So you aren't taking this very serious. If you don't take it serious, we will make you. I am going to assume by making me was a nice way of start. or we'll drop you off, or we'll like increase payment because you're at higher at risk. But like maybe drop you off is another way that they do that. Who knows? I thought experience was for experience with firms, not generally for portfolio stuff, I guess. That's the thing, is like there is no such thing as like a standard for resumes. A lot of people have resumes that look very similar to each other, mostly because they just use a template that they found online. But you know, one thing you can do like is go to a recruiter, like reach out to a recruiter and ask them for a resume review. And then you can explain this exact same thing. Like you don't have any job experience, but you have all these other experiences and you're trying to build whatever it is, you know, in that. And you can also ask the recruiters, does it auto import into their system fine? Like you want to test that out. And that's another sort of in way to get a conversation going with them. Last thing you want is to do all this work writing your resume in LaTeX and find out that nobody can import into their system because it's like not in the normal PDF format or something weird like that. Okay, so the titles are working, the values are not. Okay, so the values are not working. So can I log in here? No, I cannot. But inside the map, I probably can. So before the HTML, we can absolutely throw something like the value in here and see what you are. Oh, but then you need to be multi-line. And you don't implement, yeah, you don't do that. Okay, let's see what we're getting for table. Okay, for each value. Oh, cool, nothing. Yeah, but the PDF parsers aren't very good. They have classes at the local libraries that teach you how to write the PDF for these job agents PDF parsers. Yes, I know. They're not good. Zilby is not down here. I'm sorry. Aviv Cree. Sorry, he's not here. He decided to hang out upstairs today. Maybe it's warmer up there. Maybe he's just like taking an afternoon nap. So sorry about that. Also, hello, how are you doing today? Yeah, and I know. A lot of there's some recruiters that I know that have actually abandoned their big software that the sort of like they use that would like auto import and like do all the keyword dumping and everything else because they were so bad. And they've like switched back to just manual entry for things because that was so much better. So it sort of like depends. But if you have a chance, Tea Kettle, try to find a recruiter who's like local to you and build a relationship with them. Even if they don't work with like junior developers, see if you can, they're usually happy to start that relationship. In like a year or 2 or 3, they're going to be your best friend. Okay, so revise editor. So okay, so basically, this value is empty. Is that right? Value. There's nothing here. Because this is row slots getting mixed in. If I don't have slots, it's not going to do anything. Oh, that sucks. So I can't zip it in because, oh, that's a thing. Okay. Oh, you kind of missed where you find recruiters. That's a good question. Where I've found recruiters in the past is like going to technical meetups. Like sometimes recruiters show up there. Going to, I guess like I would start with meetups, right? Like start there. LinkedIn is another great place. Like if you start making your profile look like a developer and look like you're looking for work, you'll probably start getting some recruiters reaching out to you. A lot of recruiters are sort of low quality recruiters. And I mean, you still have to like sort of chat with them when you're just getting started out, but they're not really going to lead anywhere. That's going to be like when you hear people saying like, I applied to like 1,500 jobs and I haven't gotten anything. It's usually the low quality like recruiters that are helping out with that. Like they're not really going to do much. But every once in a while, you're going to find a good recruiter, like one that actually knows what they're doing, who's local to you. Local might be relative, like it still might be decent far away. Those recruiters you want to create a relationship with. And you can basically find out where they are on their LinkedIn page. You don't know what meetups are? Oh, okay. So if you go to meetup.com, search for any kind of developer meetup near you. And that's what a meetup is. So it's basically just a gathering of developers usually in a physical like area where like oftentimes there's a presentation, then a lot of it is networking. And sometimes they'll even feed and give you drinks too. Literally from Meetup website. Yeah, exactly. So when we say meetups, it's just a name now from that. Like they're not always organized from meetups. Sorry, from Meetup, but they're called meetups now. Okay, so let's not worry about slots for a second. So we're back. Okay, so you're back and working again. Good. Good. Now, that means I need to get so iter. I need to enumerate so I can get the index. Right? You're the index? Yeah. So we have you, and then I want to do this. I now want to reach into, okay, so we're going to do props dot row slots. So I can get returns a reference to an element or a subslice. Is it by index? Okay, so index. And I could clone it. That way, if it doesn't exist or it didn't give like the right number of them, it won't crash. Networking is so important, and I always thought it was a boomer thing when we would have dinner at in-laws on Sunday, and we had this 10 times we networked that week. but now I fully understand why they made us do it. Networking is like, there's no other good way to put it. Networking is how you find jobs consistently. Oftentimes when I ask somebody who's done one of those, like, I've applied for 1,500 jobs, and I haven't gotten anything at all. Or I got 3 interviews. Oftentimes I ask, like, okay, well, what have you done besides interview? Or just apply for jobs? And where are you applying? Like, how are you applying for jobs? And it's almost always, oh, I just find a job on LinkedIn. I go to Monster. I go to, like, you know, any of those like job sites, and I just click the button and then move on to the next one. And they're spending like 8 hours a day just hunting for those click apply, click apply, click apply. And that is the most horrifying thing that I've ever seen. Like, that's a terrible way to look for a job. Not just because it's like mind-numbingly, like, you know, mind-numbing. It's also because that's the lowest quality type of search you're going to do. Here's how I used to tell the students. When, like, think of it from the other side, right? If we let's switch around and go, this is a sales approach, by the way. It's like, when you're searching for a job, you're a salesperson. You're selling yourself. You're the product. As a salesperson, you want to sell value, right? Like, you want to help somebody solve a problem. Well, the problem a company has is they need someone to, well, build something for them. So from their perspective, they have a need. They need somebody to build something. What are they going to do? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to ask their existing employees, hey, do you know anybody that we should bring in an interview? That's the first thing they're going to do. So some of their developers are going to go like, oh yeah, I know this person. I met them at a meetup the other day. Or I met this other person over here. I think they might be looking for a job. I'll reach out to them and ask them. So they're going to go through and they're going to interview all those people. And maybe they find them and they get a job. And maybe they don't. Maybe it's like, ooh, none of those people really worked out. Okay, next up. Well, we ran out of like references, so let's open it up a little bit bigger. Let's ask recruiters. And so they ask a recruiter, do you know anybody? And so the recruiters will like the good recruiters will sit there and think, who's like, well, I know I have like 5 people in my network who I know are looking for jobs. I'll reach out to them. And then that might result in someone getting hired. And if it doesn't, they'll go to the very last like resort, which is they'll say, hey, recruiter, can you search for somebody to work for us? And the recruiter will say, okay. And then they will put job board notices out. So these are like the LinkedIn jobs where you apply for it. They'll put that on Monster. They'll go everywhere and basically do an active search for somebody. Think about that. That means that if you're only applying through that, you're skipping all of the other stages where people are searching for jobs. You're only getting companies that are desperate because they couldn't find jobs or anybody to work through their own networks. So that's what you need. You need to get earlier in the process, which is only through networking. And as Stacking said, networking isn't always just job searching, but getting your name out there, because you don't. It's a slow burn. As we would call it in the sales term for this is the funnel is long. It's a long funnel process. So what you want to do is you want to go out there and get your name known, because what you want to have happen is when you're not there in one of these conversations where somebody says, are you looking for a developer? Somebody says, I remember this person. What was their name again? They said they knew this technology and like they had some interesting things they were talking about. I really liked their conversation with them. Right. Tea Kettle. That's what their name was. And let me look up their information and then I'll like give it to our recruiter and they'll reach out to them. That's what you want to have happen. And just like most sales, it's a long funnel, which means between the time that you tell somebody that you exist and when you get a callback could be a very long time. So you have to do it a lot, and you have to never stop doing that, because if you only start networking when you need the job, it's too late. It's going to take potentially months for the network to pay off. That's my rant about networking. So I would probably want a TD wrapped around this somewhere else. So this one would just be a checkbox, right? So I'll just use input. And then we'll throw you in here. That was profoundly insightful. I always just blow it off because you feel like you don't have enough value to bring. But then I kind of aimlessly learn things you want to learn. Rust, game dev, Haskell. Even when you're getting coffee in the morning and just small talk, like that, oh, sandwich, that looks good. Oh, you're a plumber. Do you do house calls? I've literally used a plumber you found that way. Yeah, I mean, always try to think about it from the other point of view, right? How do you know to call like a specific plumber, a specific person you do? Oh, you got a reference from them. Well, that's through your network, right? Think of it the other way around. Now you want to be that person that is referenced. There's some mind hacks. So some people like get uncomfortable when they think about like these type of mind hacks. It's unfortunately just sort of like how we work. So if we as humans oftentimes mistake competence with like if we're liking somebody. There's a really good book. Dan Kahneman called it Fast Thinking, Slow Thinking, which has something. One of the things it talks about is that when your brain asks, like, do I trust this person? Do I think they're doing a good job? That's a really hard question to answer. Most humans, our subconscious will switch that to a different question, one that's easy to answer. And it's less of, are they competent? Are they good at the thing? They'll answer the question of, do I like this person? That's it. And the answer is, oh, yes, I do. I like that person. Which the problem is you don't know, like it's a subconscious, happens behind the scenes. You don't know that you've now answered the wrong question. And therefore the information is not exactly what you were expecting. So you just take it at face value because it's from your own brain. How could it be wrong, right? So it's if you hang around somebody and you talk with them about anything at all, they generally like you more because you've talked to them. Think about it like The Sims, right? When you just chat with somebody, your relationship meter goes up. That's it. It's as simple as that. That's why small talk is important, because it makes your relationship meter go up. And then later on, they go like, oh yeah, I talked with Tea Kettle. Tea Kettle's an amazing developer. They've never seen you develop. They don't know that. but they think they do because they answered the wrong question when their brain asked themselves, how good are they at development? They really said, do I like hanging out with Tea Kettle? That was what like they answered. And that's all what networking is getting that in there, like going in there and like investing in that and practicing it. If you don't feel that you're very good at like small talk or doing anything else, treat it as a game. Your job is to level yourself up. You're level 1 right now. That's okay. Level up. Get really good at it. You can hate it. You could think that it's a stupid skill, but you still need to go off and do the raid boss every once in a while in order to actually live in this world. So it's a good skill to have. Pack G Wood, hello. How are you doing today? Cannot move out of row ID. Oh, I can clone it, right. I forgot that it wasn't a number. Okay, so I think this is gonna... you're doing good, working right now, awesome. Hey, okay, and so we got that working here, which means the titles come in over here too. So in our pages, we update our titles. Okay, so we have our normal titles here. Let's also... I want title. These are going to be titles with checkbox. Actually, we know what this is. This is going to be... what is it called? Titles checkbox. This is going to be the data table titles. And so we have tag name, courses, and preview. And then data table titles is going to come down here. So now we can see tag name, courses, preview. Okay, that's good. And then I want to get an event fired to the parent component whenever this changes, so I know to like do something about it, right? So what's that going to be? I want inside of this slot here, we're going to have a let, yes, this is going to be interesting. We're going to have a let, it's going to end up being a whole bunch of these, isn't it? And we're just going to have to be okay with that. We're just going to have to be okay with that. So input type checkbox. So this is going to be preview unchecked. No, on input. We'll start with that. And preview on input. I need to clone that and put you in here. So we're going to need to move. It doesn't implement copy, so we're going to need to So okay, we're gonna let preview put equals preview on input clone, which of course he deleted my other thing. So you do that, and then we do rows. Okay. Of course you did that. Okay. Okay. So now we have you, and then I can say on input, preview on input. And I need to clone you. So now I see when this gets checked, and when it changes, it also does its thing. Okay, it's a good sign. And then, okay, so I have a row. This is my event, so I have an input event. And now if I want to get the ID out of this, or like a data ID, oh, it's the value. So I don't want this to be, I don't care about the ID of this. I care about this being the value. Okay, so we have an input event. You're going to need to know that this is an input event, aren't you? I need to turn this into an HTML input. Okay, so we're going to do input element equals input. So it's going to be our event. We're going to get the target. We're going to do an unchecked into. Oh, sure, we unwrap. It's not an F64. Where's my JS cast? Oh, do I not have the thing? Or that is, I don't want it. It's a WebSys, right? I want web-sys. Did you all hear about the change? Apparently they're going to make it so you can't have too many features in a crate that gets deployed to crates, which I don't know how that's going to work with WebSys. They have like thousands of features. Okay, so new cargo add WebSys. But I want to add HTML input element, I think is what it is. They said that exceptions will be added. Okay, that is good. Otherwise, like, I was a little bit worried. You had a feeling that the Rust team was going to get annoyed with people abusing the feature system. I think like it's a really cool idea. And then people decided to use it as a design pattern. And then it just became like big. Here it is. HTML. No, that's HTML element. HTML. Is there no HTML input element? What am I missing? I think it's like input. It's not input element. It's input event. Oh, they're not in alphabetical order. Of course they're not. All right. Well, we had to talk about the abuse before. Yeah. Yeah. Unchecked into using JSCast. Would you look at that? That's the new Helix ability where I don't have to restart everything. We just get it. Stacking, dinner time. Thank you so much, Stacking, for hanging around. Have a good dinner. It's after the time that I normally end. I just want to get this like working a little bit. I want to get the value printed out, and then we'll probably end. You love the no restart LSP every time. I know it was getting a little bit too much. Now we only have to restart it when it just goes crazy, which is not that often, but still often enough. Okay, so you're going to be HTML input element. Okay, so you turn into that. So now I have the HTML input element, which means now I want the value input element dot value. And so we'll just log out the value. Ooh, I need to know if it's checked, don't I? So checked. So do value and checked. We'll see what this says. You compile. So now, okay, boom. 1 is true, 1 is false. 2 is true, 2 is false. 3 is true, 3 is false. Excellent. Okay. And this is good. This is good. So now we have the ability to figure out which one it is. We can put a checkbox in here, and we can get the event back out. We can see what it's doing, all the good stuff. Okay, I'm happy about this. And then let's see, what's next? Okay, so the next thing would be I want to reorder these. I want to put pagination in. We could wait on pagination until I actually have like a need for it. And I did want reorder. So I need the ability to reorder them. So sorting and reordering is so okay. Sorting. So basically we're gonna have like maybe click on the titles of here to reorder them that way, or it's a manual order where I like click and drag around. So that's gonna be the next thing. But we will work on that tomorrow. So let's go ahead and clean this up. And by clean it up, I just mean put it up to GitHub. So what have we done? We've created, okay, yeah, so we handling slots in the something like handling slots, in the data table and table, right? And you're going up. Perfect. We're getting really close. I am fairly confident we'll be done with this feature by the end of the week. And then I think this feature, I'm pretty sure will let me, I might want some other things to help like before I start working on the Axum course again. So because like I think something will make it nicer for me to do that. I have to sort of like, I have to think about that. All right. So with that all being said and done, let me check. Let's see. Let's see. CM Griffin is doing some co-working. JD Does Dev is programming Godot and raising money for something, but it's cut off by the title, so I can't see it. And Bash Bunny is streaming, doing something in a Nintendo something. Again, like cut off on the title, so I can actually see. Can I make this bigger? No, it just added like IN to the Nintendo. That's cool. Let's raid JD Does Dev. He has the least number of viewers right now. So I'll go in there and we will. So it looks like he's doing. He's doing Extra Life stream. That's nice. And he's building a game in Godot 4. And that is using, I believe, the whatever the language that comes with Godot by default. So JD Does Dev, yeah. All right, everybody, I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. I'll be back here tomorrow morning around 2:30 a.m. No, definitely not then. Around 7 a.m. Mountain Time, and then there's no afternoon stream tomorrow. So it'll be 7 a.m. is going to be the only stream tomorrow, and then we'll be back again on Friday. So I hope that you all have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you next time. Bye.